Hey Raghunath, tell everyone about our Patreon community.
Sure, Kaustubha. The Wisdom of the Sages Patreon community is an incredible online yoga resource. If you like the type of yoga wisdom and culture we share on the show, then our Patreon community is a great next step. This is a listener-supported podcast, and any level of sponsorship will unlock a wide range of live and archived classes, talks, and even workshops.
Raghunath teaches, I teach, and we have a host of other excellent teachers on topics ranging from yoga philosophy, asana classes, storytelling, Ayurveda, kirtan, cooking, meditation, and a lot more.
We even have an incredible online Bhakti 12-step recovery group.
So if you want to check it out, go to patreon.com/wisdom of the sages.
All right, let's get it on.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Live from beautiful, sunny Sunshine State of Alachua. This is Wisdom of the Sages, a daily yoga podcast with your host, Raghunath, and co-host and senior educator at the Bhakti Center in New York, Kaustubha Das. Welcome to the show, everybody. Welcome to Gruntaraj. That's what they call the Srimad Bhagavatam. The Gruntaraj, the king, the Raj of all gruntas, the king of all books. Gruntaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. It's our daily study of the Srimad Bhagavatam. But today is Saturday, and on Saturday we take questions. And people write in their questions to wisdomofthesages108@gmail.com. And Kaustubha and myself try our best to answer the questions. And if you have a question, you can write it in. And we are here live in Alachua. We just had the first day of the festival. And I tell you, Kaustubha, I sing in front of a lot of yogis and non-devotees or people who are new to all this stuff. I sing on a regular basis, but I get incredibly, and I'm very rarely intimidated. I'm pretty confident in who I am, but I so am intimidated singing in front of devotees. I can't describe it. I get all nervous and second guess myself because you got to understand who my backup singers were. Check this out. Check out this lineup of people I could pass the mic to. Gauravani, my hero. Mm-hmm. Vishwambar, my hero. Dunya, my heroine. Dunya's older sister, incredible singer. Kishore from Mayapuris. It was just like unbelievable. And the other great kirtan singers are all there, and they can really play. I'm sort of like a 3-chord. I'm like what Green Day is to Rush. You know what I mean when it comes to kirtan. I'm 3 chords. And these guys are like, you know, Mozart on the harmonium. And it's just like a little intimidating for me, truthfully. But we did it. We had this beautiful festival and kirtan all day long. Tons of little children running around. Tons of teenage children running around, you know, dressed like Vedic, you know, runway models. It's like a beautiful party going on. And my kids had a great time. It was great. I saw tons of others out there, like people just coming up I've never seen before. Hey, we listen to the show on a regular basis. It was really affirming.
Wonderful. Sounds like you're having a great time.
We are, and it's over. Today's the last day, and we head for a long road trip back tomorrow. Mm-hmm. So if you've got like issues with me, Kaustubha, or just want to chat, I've got like 15 hours of driving. This is the time to do it. You just call me up and talk to me. I'm all yours. You know, right. I know when you call me at home, I'm always like, I gotta go. I can't talk. Or I press the red button, which means this is what happens when Kaustubha calls me, Mara. He calls me and I'm doing something and I just press the red button, which means it goes to voicemail. And he always sends me the emoji of the crying dinosaur back. I'm letting you in on my personal relationship with Kaustubha. But if anybody wants to call me, I've got 18 hours. Moga, if you want to call me, anybody, Mara, you just call me and I'll just talk to you for hours.
He will. It's hard to shake him when he's on the road like that.
Yeah, it is. It is. So,
So,
that's
so
correct.
because you're on the road tomorrow, you will not be here for tomorrow's show, but the show will go on,
Yes.
and it'll be a interview with Kaylee Woods, who's a absolutely excellent devotional musician and songwriter,
Excellent.
and his new record's out. You know what his new record's called, Raghu?
No.
Falling
Chant and
Upwards.
be happy. What's
Falling
it called?
Upwards. It's called Falling Upwards.
Upwards. Oh yeah, you mentioned this yesterday. Falling Upwards. That's
Yeah.
a great name. Isn't there a book of that?
That's
There
right.
is,
It's
there.
based off the book by Richard Rohr. Falling Upwards. So he'll tell us about that, and we'll discuss other things. It'll be good. It'll be a good interview. I think we're even going to get like professional. Like we're going to try to play like little segments of the different songs and talk.
Oh,
about
that's
them.
good. You're pretty pro. That's
Well,
the thing
he's
now.
figuring
Is like
it
you
out.
write a record, but you name it after a book. My new Kirtan CD is going to be called
War and Peace.
The Hobbit.
Okay,
Hey, did you
Raghu.
see? Okay,
Yeah.
you may not have saw this because I don't know if you followed Joe Rogan today, but Joe Rogan posted this thing. Check this out today on his Instagram. He said, "We're all in Kali Yuga." That's what he said. We're all in Kali
right.
Yuga, the age of conflict. All of the chaos we're seeing right now was predicted in Hinduism thousands of years ago. Civilizations move in predictable cycles, and we are in the lower left-hand square of the chart. He made some interesting chart. Do your best to elevate yourself and the world around you from the madness that is in the air, but understand that this insanity is all part of the infinite process. Maybe Joe is our savior. He's come to save us. Isn't that interesting?
It is interesting.
It's interesting. It's amazing how, like, yes. Anyway, let's just leave it at that. A lot of people
Mara has
here
an
from Joe
announcement.
Rogan.
Mara has an announcement to make.
Mary, you got an announcement?
Yeah, we have a couple things going on today.
Anything to do with Kali Yuga?
No, sorry to disappoint you. Well,
Okay.
there's a Bhakti recovery group meeting at 9:30
Speaking
a.m.
of Kali Yuga
We did
dented cans,
go.
we have a
There's a Bhakti recovery group meeting today at 9:30, and then Tina Scheid is offering her breathwork workshop, Inner Axis Breath, at 11 a.m. Eastern time for our Patreon members. And Katie Bell's asana class today is at 1:30 p.m.
both Tina Scheid and Katie Bell are special. It's only in Kali Yuga where you need to take a class on how to breathe, isn't it? Other yugas, you don't need a class. This is just part of.
Well, they're
Okay,
doing
it's-
pranayama.
Well, I bet it was taught to you from childhood.
That's what I'm saying. It was taught to you. They took a class on it.
Well, they didn't take a workshop on it in their adult life. I'm saying it was
Right.
probably part of, okay, now you're going to brush your teeth. And now we're going to do our breathing practices, children. You know, it was probably part of like how you raised your kids.
Okay.
There was, no Barney or whatever TV shows kids watch today. It was just sort of like, we're going to breathe now. We have to
Okay.
relearn all this
Why don't
stuff.
we take a question now?
Let's take a question.
Or
It's
15
questions and
minutes.
answers day. There's a funny thing you said yesterday. Remember when I said that thing about like, there is no way yesterday, total Krishna miracle of driving down the highway at 108 and we passed 108. You couldn't plan that. We passed exit 108. You couldn't plan that. You totally couldn't plan that. You couldn't do that if you wanted to do. And Kaustubha goes, you could plan it.
You could plan it. You totally could plan it. You get on the other exit about 15 minutes before that, right? And then you drive at the speed
You
that
could calculate that. Oh, Krishna. Well, here we are. It's question day, and your question is first, my friend.
All right, who's it coming from?
It is coming from a man that goes by the name Komal.
Is sure that's a man? Komal.
No, I'm not
Yeah,
actually.
probably.
Kamal. It could be Kamal. It means like lotus. It could be a man or a woman. I know men named Kamal, and I know women named Kamal.
Okay.
He says this, or she says this. Hare Krishna. I hope you're well. I was listening to your podcast 560 about karma and suffering.
Mm-mm.
Thank you for sharing Srimad Bhagavatam 10, 14, 18, and the Vedas personified story. I have a question regarding suffering. I find the concept hard to explain to others and digest myself, especially with friends of mine who have undergone child abuse and many other horrific things. How can I explain that it isn't God's fault? How do I explain that? Right? Why did bad things happen to good people? it's hard for them to digest. How do we have free will if we have karma and Krishna is the controller? How do those things work together, right? Is it destiny, or do I have some free will in there? Because you talk about destiny all the time, talk about the astrological charts, etc. I love your podcast. It really helps me keep positive in my Krishna consciousness. Thank you for your service. Kamal from London via the website. Okay, Kaustubha, what do you got for Kamal?
Well, it's a nice question, and it's quite, Kamal is saying that they would like to help their friend understand this bhakti philosophy better, but the friend is having a response, like I don't know if you call it a knee-jerk response, but like, having a hard time putting it together. Now, here's what I think is important. Let's start here. That in your trying to explain this to them, we have to be clear what we're trying to do. Like if you're trying to win an argument, that's one thing. And if you're trying to help a person expand their understanding, it's a little bit, maybe subtly, but it's a little different. And so that means if you're taking it from that second point of view, that I'm just trying to help someone understand something better, then we have to understand where they're at, right? We have to understand where they're coming from. So we have to kind of examine their ability to accept what we're saying. So like, is their thinking coming from an emotional place, or is it coming from a rational place, or where on the gradient in between is it, Like you could be dealing with Mr. Spock. You don't have to worry about the emotional side of it, right? You're just getting down to the fact. And if you're dealing with someone that's very emotional, particularly when it comes to questions that involve suffering, and even more particularly when it's around that, when it's that person's personal suffering is involved in it, then you may get a more emotional response. But, when it comes to analysis, it's the more rational thought that's stronger. And so if you see that the person is having a very emotional response to it, we'll take that into consideration. And the first thing you want to do when that happens is you may want to generalize the subject. In other words, you make it about people in general and not specifically about the person that you're talking with. Like if they're saying, well, I was abused, you don't have to get into their personal abuse and use that as the example that we're judging this philosophy by. Step back a little bit, right? And generalize the subject. Let's talk about people in general. Let's talk about suffering in general. That might help,
Kaustubha, I'm just going to interject what you're doing right now. Kaustubha is giving you the best answer possible because he's talking to you how a doctor administrates medicine. And so you as the speaker are like, he's giving the appropriate dose to the appropriate person.
Yeah.
Continue, Prabhu.
No, well, thank you. But, going back to where I started, if we want to win a debate, that's one thing. But you know what? There's very few forms where that's really a valuable approach, Really, we're trying to, increase the person's understanding. So let's recognize if a person's coming from a very emotional place, even things that make perfect sense may not make perfect sense to them, may be hard to accept. There may be buzzwords or red flags, things that set off their emotional response that even are very rational, but that they're going to have a hard time accepting. But this is the thing, spiritual thinking means deep thinking. And sometimes it means deeper thinking than people have ever thought before. Because we're not really trained to think very deeply, at least, like in my education. I don't know about you, Raghunath, but it's like, we were really kind of fed information and taught to kind of like, be able to repeat that information in a test format. But I feel, it's hard to judge my education because you're just kids when you're going through it, right? But I don't feel like I was really being trained to think deeply, to think critically.
Like critical thinking.
Yeah, critical thinking. And we're especially due to the nature of the world that we're living in right now with the social media and all types of media, we're more trained to respond with the knee-jerk reactions. Like I hear a word and I come back with my reaction. And I haven't really gone deep into thought of trying to understand what's really going on here. Now, with a question like karma, I remember once I saw one celebrity was speaking about karma in an interview. And they were very emotional about it. And they said, there's no way I'm buying into that karma BS, And the proof that they gave that that the idea of karma can't be real was they said, this friend of mine was shot and killed.
And he was a good person.
And it was a good person. Yeah, they never shot and killed anyone, you know? So no way, you know, now to me, it's not very deep thought, right? Like, have you considered all the possibilities, you know? Have you considered, for instance, that may have lived before this life?
Right.
So you're judging, you know, the situation based on the life that this person has lived that you've witnessed. But what if they've lived, you know, what if they've accumulated karma from a previous time that you have no access to, you know? Or what about this? You know, some things that you may think that someone is doing, you may think something's innocent when it's really not innocent. We may not understand how cruel some of the things that we're doing are. You know, there was a time when, you know, people thought slavery, you know, hey, there's nothing wrong with that.
Very normal.
You know?
It's normal. It's normal. Everybody has slaves. It's like,
Yeah,
we've normalized abominable things.
And so, but then we think, okay, well, that was then, but nobody's doing that now. Well, what about how we treat the animals? You know, a lot of the world is waking up to the idea that the way that we're treating animals is very cruel, and that there would naturally be a karmic response to it. You know, so have you considered that maybe some of the things that we think are innocent are not necessarily innocent? Or what about this? What about if our perception of suffering may be insufficient for this equation to add up? You know, in
You're
other
the
words,
spiritual scientist, man. You're really breaking this thing down.
I'm not
You're
the spiritual scientist.
That's your new website, the
no,
spiritual scientist.
That's taken, and I bow my head to the spiritual scientist.
I know, but I think we need something to add to it, like the spiritual scientist, Shriman spiritual scientist, something, because you're really like breaking this down scientifically. I'm really appreciating this.
Well, thank you, Raghunath.
Very thorough.
Well, I'm trying to be.
Spiritual surgery, the spiritual surgeon.
Okay, but let me just very briefly. You know, I've shared this on the show before, but do you remember that time I shared? I was at. I don't know if you were present at the moment, but I was over at a friend's house, and another friend came over, and they brought their little puppy dog, and the daughter of the hosts became totally attached to that dog from the morning, and you know, just didn't leave that dog for you know, side for the entire day. But right in the morning, the parents said, "Oh, we know there's going to be trouble when you leave and you take your dog away. You know, it's going to break the heart of the girl," and so on. And so when that moment came at the end of the day, exactly what they predicted happened, and the girl just broke down into tears and like just the way that she was crying. If you just analyze it, you could see her suffering was actually very deep. It was like, I've lost everything now. You know, it was the way like a mother cries when they lose a child or something like that. It was extreme. So the child was definitely suffering. And the parents loved the child, but the parents couldn't actually help but laugh just a little bit, right? Because they view that suffering from a zoomed out perspective that the child doesn't have. They view that suffering they realize there's really no need to suffer here, that the suffering is going to be over very quickly, you know, et cetera. They understand from their perspective that suffering is very different. We have a very hard time viewing our own suffering from that zoomed out perspective.
Yeah, think about a time in your life where you were suffering. Remember when you got dengue?
Yeah.
It's like a dream now. You got dengue. Kaustubha, right? It's like a dream now. You're not in it. It's over. It's that day. That day of dengue is over, or that week
gone
of dengue
forever.
is
Gone
forever.
Yeah.
And all the greatest times of your life, they're over too. Like your pleasure is over and your pain is over. And now it's just like a dream. The spiritual surgeon is they're just dreams of the spiritual surgeon.
Okay.
This is going to stick, man. This is your new name.
I don't know if that's going to stick, but one last thing I want to share. I'm just giving different ideas of how one could look at things more deeply that someone may not have done, right? Someone may say, look, I was abused and I didn't deserve it, and so I can't buy into this. And I'm saying you can't necessarily, I'm giving rational arguments right now, and the person may not be open to these, and it may not be the right approach. But if you're coming on, you know, but spiritual thought requires a step. So I said, we may have lived before. I've said we may be doing things that are less innocent than we actually know, that our perception of suffering may be insufficient for all this to add up. And one more is that the consideration, you know what? And this is really powerful and liberating. And this is the kind of thought that to me really leads to a deeper kind of acceptance and harmony, is that the idea that we've all been abusers and we've all been abused. And we're going through cycles of that. So I don't judge anyone. It's, you know, in other words, for there to be forgiveness and non-judgmental acceptance, and real harmony in life, for there to be a deep level of forgiveness. And we just read the other day, remember when we were reading Yudhishthira's comments on forgiveness, and he said it is forgiveness that holds the universe together, right? Like without forgiveness, there's no harmony, So it's this deep level of thought saying, you know what? I don't judge even the abuser. I don't even wish them harm, and now I want to be clear about this. Governing requires some of that surface level response, right? Like there's different levels
of like material justice.
Exactly.
Just for the sanity of society.
For the safety of society, yeah. But deep spiritual transformation and peace requires a deeper level of spiritual thought. And a mature thinker can accommodate different levels of thought at one time. And understand when to apply the different levels of thought. But you can't expect that from everyone, particularly when they're caught deep in the emotion of something. So try to understand where the person's coming from, where they are on an emotional state, and see how much they can really accept. And don't try to push them. Don't try to shove something down their throat that they can't accept. It'll actually be counterproductive if you leave it open, like saying, okay, well, I disagree with you on this, but maybe another time we can talk. Leave it rather than push them away, harden them to these ideas. It might be better to kind of speak more generally and not push where you feel there's not going to be. Don't try to win.
Right.
Just see how much they can take. So that's one thing. And then the next part of Komal's question had to do with the idea of freedom, free will, and what was it again? How do we have free will?
Free will, and
if
how can there be free will
karma
and karma and destiny?
And Krishna in control. And so this is the point. We have freedom. We have free will, but it's a freedom that's within a structure governed by laws, right? And so, like, I'll give two examples of that. One has to do with the laws of physics, and one has to do with like state laws, But like, you take the laws of physics, you get in a car, and you start to drive it, and you begin to increase the speed. And there's I'm not a physicist, so I can't explain this in great detail, but I can understand this at least, that the higher that you increase that speed, the degree of your turning starts to decrease. Like when you're going 5 miles an hour, you can make a 45-degree turn, no problem. But when you're going 45 miles an hour, you may have to limit that. 45 degrees may shrink down to like 20 degrees. And when you're going 100 miles an hour, you may be only able to turn 5 degrees without causing some kind of, it's staying on the road. You understand? So you had the freedom to choose, I'm going to increase my speed. But with that application of your free will, you began to limit your next choice. You see, so you had the free will, but you're also working in a structure that's governed by laws. And a physicist could tell you exactly what that law is. I don't know the name for it. But, another example being, dealing with like laws that states make or humans make, is that of a prisoner. We're all moving through, like people might say, America's a free country, right? Well, yeah, we have freedom. Like I had the freedom to choose to come and do this podcast this morning. I could decide I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it tomorrow. I have like a certain amount of freedom. But there's certain choices that might restrict my freedom. Right? Like in other words, if you commit a crime, then you're sitting in a prison. Now you're still free in that prison to some degree, but your freedom is limited within that prison. And so that's how karma works. It's saying, how do we have free will if karma and Krishna is in control? Krishna is the lawmaker, but the responsibility doesn't lie with the lawmaker. It lies with the lawbreaker.
Ooh, write that down, Mary. Look at that.
The
it doesn't lie with the lawmaker.
It lies with the lawbreaker. So Krishna is not responsible for our suffering. He's not responsible for us having to accept the reaction to our activities. He made the laws. We operate within the realm of the laws that he made. So there's karma, there's Krishna, and there's our free will. They're all existing simultaneously. All right.
Very good.
All right. You like that, Raghunath?
TheSpiritualSurgeon.com. You can find him there.
Okay.
Questions always get answered. He will dissect you'll do some psychic surgery on your brain.
Okay. Well, we're going to come up with a nickname for you after you answer this next question from Nicole. from Nicole from Pueblo, Colorado. Nicole writes into Raghunath. Nicole says, "My name is Nicole, and I'm an other living in Pueblo, Colorado. I've been listening to the show every day for over a year and a half now, and I felt it was time that I thank you for the consistent service you provide for me." Well, thank you, Nicole.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening. About 2 years ago, I moved here to start a new job and was in a dark place of alcoholism. I knew I needed to get sober and focus on creating a better life for myself. After only 3 weeks of moving, a co-worker and devotee invited me to a kirtan. How about that?
Go figure. The magic happens.
The magic
you make that
started happening.
step towards Krishna, and he takes 1,000 steps towards you. Right?
Okay,
She's suffering, and all of a sudden, she turns her
door
life
opens up.
over, a spiritual way, reaches out to people, and all of a sudden, Krishna sends messengers.
Okay. So then Nicole
It's all
goes
magic,
on.
isn't it? It's all magic.
You can't plan that, Raghunath.
You can't plan that. That is a Krishna miracle.
Okay.
You meet some devotee at work. What?
Yeah. So Nicole says, "I had no idea what kirtan was or anything about Krishna. I actually wasn't even quite sure what I was going to. When being greeted with Hare Krishna and Hare Bols, I was
We've all been
quite
there
confused.
before. Like, what the hell is
It's
going
quite-
on here?
Well,
Where
what
am
did they
I? Is this
say?
a church?
So Nicole said she was quite confused as to what was going on, but I immediately felt so much love and clarity.
Wow.
Krishna has brought me to Colorado to meet the devotees and get the support I need to stay sober for good.
Wow. She zoomed out, right? She zoomed out and
Yes.
saw Krishna has brought me here
Yes,
to Colorado. It
That's
seemed
right.
like I was just getting transferred or moved. No,
just something
you are
deeper
getting
going on.
brought there by Krishna. He's been in control of this the entire time. He sees your heart and where you want to move towards, and he makes all these
opening the
incredible
door.
arrangements. He's orchestrating it. He's the orchestrator behind good and bad. It's incredible. Your life has now become more and more magical the more you get closer to Krishna.
I think you are Raghu, the spiritual magician. How's that? Spiritual magician. Because you recognize magic wherever it is.
I see magic. I see magic where magic is.
Spiritualmagician.com. Okay. So Nicole goes on. So I've been practicing and going to the temple as much as possible ever since. Okay, now here comes a question. With this, I hope you can help me with this question. This is a really good question.
Okay.
As the world returns back to a state of travel, I'm beginning to travel for work again. I feel so nervous because and this is the kind of thing I think a lot of people with addictions or addictive behavior, they feel this fear welling up in them that am I going to be able to stick with this, So she says, I feel so nervous because it was when I traveled pre-COVID, I indulged in drinking more heavily and not maintaining a good routine. Before my first work trip a few weeks ago, I told myself I was to continue to rise early, chant all my rounds, and offer all my food. However, this is not what happened. I slept late. I missed some rounds. I got lazy with my prayers and offering. I felt that all my bounce and motivation completely went away. That's rough, right?
Yep.
Thankfully, I do not have another work trip until after the holidays, so I can prepare more. I will begin traveling about once a month or more starting in January. So my question is, what tips can you share to maintain a strong sadhana practice when you're on the road? I fear that these trips will lead me down the dark path that I spent 2 years walking away from. Thank you for all you do. I'm completely inspired to be part of this community, praying for your good health and continued inspiration in Krishna consciousness. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Wow, this person really, Nicole, we're impressed. We're impressed by all that you've added to your life in these last 2 years. It's quite amazing. I feel like she gets it, what she has to add. I will say, when you practice yoga asanas, if you do the triangle pose and then you do half moon pose, both poses aren't super difficult, but it's the transition from one pose to another where all the work is. Yoga teachers know this. Yoga practitioners know this. And any transition, things get tricky. Things get off balance. If you're moving homes from one place to another, it's in the moving process. Things can get really out of place. So Similarly, if you have this steady office job or working at home or whatever, and then all of a sudden you have to go away for a weekend or for a week, things get thrown off. And I do that a lot. And I have to, so I feel reasonably qualified to answer this question. And especially when you go to, I can understand
you have a lot
the
of that
mind of an
traveling
addict.
experience, and trying to keep a sadhana while you travel.
Try to keep a sadhana while you travel, and it's not always easy. And what I do is, well, first of all, you get to a hotel, and what's the center of the hotel is the TV set. And not only that, but then they have the mini bar.
Mini bar?
Yeah, the mini bar filled with all types of alcohol. So if you're triggered by alcohol, that's an issue. One thing you can do with the mini bar is you can take all that alcohol and lock it in the safe and give the safe to the people at the front desk. That's a good little trick. Another thing you could, if you feel like that's your trigger, because different people get triggered by different things. And another thing is you could do is you could call room service and you could say, take all this alcohol out of my room until I leave. And I think that's an important thing, because sometimes one thing is when you're in a hotel, it's very easy to get lonely. You're isolated in a room. There's no accountability. And that's one big thing about people who go through recovery. They want accountability, because when there's accountability, you can't slip up, you can't slip up. And it's important. And some people are thinking, it's not a big deal. I can do that. It's not a big deal. That's okay. It might not be a big deal, but it is a very, very big deal for some people. And so it's a great question to answer, especially in the beginning of something like recovery, when you're dealing with very, very heavy triggers where you hit one button and all of a sudden you're down a slippery slope. So another thing is with sex. You get on this. You ever go into a hotel? Kaustubha, you don't stay at hotels.
I did. I used to stay in the Patel motels, and I mean, in India sometimes I have to different. Yeah, stayed in hotels.
Well, a lot of times you stay in regular, hotels in America or Europe. I see this in Europe a lot. As soon as you turn on the TV, there's some pornographic thing on TV, like, hey, come on. Yeah. And I'm like, what? And I was like, I want to see this. So right, what I would do that it tries to get you triggered, and it triggers on all your loneliness and stuff like that.
Right.
I put a blanket over the television set. Okay. So I will not watch it.
First thing you walk in there, just throw the blanket on it.
Throw the blanket right over it. I'm serious. I clean off a place and find, where is my altar going? And I make it a temple.
Put it right on top of that television.
Right on top of that television, the altar. Clear out any intoxicants if that's your trigger or your drug of choice. And then you turn the whole thing. You could do, you get some Ganga water. You could spray the whole place down with scented Ganga water. Do that in the whole room. I'm serious. I make my hotel into a place. And then what I do is I play music. I play kirtan. And I try to keep it clean, try to keep the room clean. And I hear and chant in that room. I'll play, or if there is a local temple, I'll go to a local temple. Sometimes you could say, oh my, Krishna has brought me here. There's a local temple right here.
Let me just fill up my time when I could get myself in trouble. Let me fill it up with something positive.
Yeah. And spare time is trouble for a person with an addictive attitude. Mm-hmm. So you don't want that type of spare time. And you can make a determined effort. I'm going to read this, or I'm going to go to a temple. And we need accountability and to take shelter if you feel the danger of transition. And that's completely reasonable to understand, like, okay, these things trigger me. It's completely understandable to have triggers, but how do we deal with those triggers? It's what's going to save us in the transition until we get to a stable place. Anyway, so those are the things.
Yeah. I don't know if Nicole is a member of the Bhakti Recovery Group or participates in the Bhakti Recovery Group, but, you were mentioning about accountability and my understanding of 12-step programs is, you have a mentor. You have some people that you can reach out to when you're vulnerable.
Yeah.
So, it doesn't even necessarily, this question was about two things. One, it was about alcoholism, but it was also about like the weakening of one's spiritual practice. And I think in either case, if you can find that person that you trust, that person that you can open up to and be vulnerable with, then when you travel, maybe you just want to build it right into your schedule. Hey, I want to call you and just talk with you, even if you're not in trouble, but just like, I'm going to call you at 9:00 on Thursday. Can we do that? Yeah. And you just build that into your schedule, and that, knowing that you're going to speak to that person then, may also be helpful, I think.
I just had rules that I wrote in sand too. I don't let women in my hotel room.
You wrote in sand. That when you write it in sand, it sounds like it's like it could be easily.
I meant draw a line in the sand. I wrote it in sand. You know, sometimes you have to erase it and move the line
a
back.
little breeze can blow it away.
A strong wind came. I can't find the line. Oh well. I meant written in stone. Like I don't let women in the hotel room. Or if
Right.
or something like that.
Right.
Somewhere where I won't compromise where I'm at. Or if there was, you know, because I have a lot of students, if sometimes I'll travel to a place, I'll say, you know what, you can all come over my room and we're gonna have a kirtan in my room or something like that. And that way it sort of like transcendentalizes everything. Don't set yourself up to be, you know what your triggers are and know where those lines can be drawn, and it can really protect you from your things. I love the idea of calling people for accountability and reaching out. Another one is I try not to stay up late. I find that after 9 o'clock, trouble kicks in.
Nothing good happens.
Nothing good comes in. That's when I binge eat after 9. You know, but binging can manifest in so many ways, right? After 9 o'clock, it's just like saturated in tamaguna, or the mode of ignorance, and that's where like these lower energies of the material world start to take over the consciousness. Go to bed early, rise early. Always nice.
Good stuff. Good answer, Raghu. Good answer.
Thank you. And this is from Jai Madhava Das.
Which I might have. Go ahead, plug.
Pam Ho. Oh, wait. Oh, this is Jai Madhava from mymumsnuts.com. This is mymumsnuts.com.
Yeah.
He's the guy that makes the CBD oil and the other stuff I use. mymumsnuts.com. All right, Jai Madhava. Pam Ho. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. All glories to wisdom of the sages. Thank you, Raghunath Kaustubha and Mara. Mara always gets that thanks in there, too. She's one of the team members. Sometimes it's like, and the rest. You know that thing from Gilligan's Island?
I know
And the rest.
Yeah.
Another wonderful, sweet Prabhupada disciple left his body.
Mm-hmm.
His Grace Rajendra Nandana Prabhu. The cancer was quick, and he left his body with the devotees chanting. Such an auspicious way to leave your meat suit. Right? We got to leave the meat suit sometime. What a great way. Having all the devotees. Like when I leave my body, I want Kaustubha and Mara just sitting around there chanting, putting the tulsi leaf in my mouth, spraying me with Ganga water, pouring Ganga water on my head. Right?
Yeah.
Rolling me, burning my body.
Okay, we'll do it all.
You do
We'll make sure you're dead before we burn the body too.
Yeah, please make sure. If I'm wiggling in there, that means I'm not dead.
Okay. I think he's dead. Yeah, go ahead, light him up.
I think he's. Kaustubha, I think it's just burn him. Okay.
If he's not dead, he's gonna be dead soon. So
Okay, he's no longer on take care of Raghunath's body detail. You're in charge of spraying me with Ganga water. Okay. All right, back to Jai Madhava's question.
I've almost left.
I've almost left my body numerous times. From car crashes, brain injuries, and comas to just choking on food. Choking on food is scary. People choke. You could die in a moment choking on. Everything can be normal. You're laughing with your friends, and next thing you know, 2 hands on your neck.
That's when you're binge eating. That only happens after 9 o'clock.
You know what? It would have, because I'm such a character, people would think I'm doing a joke. You know what I mean? And I'd be like, did I ever tell you the time that I was at home choking on a tortilla chip?
I think you
did.
Did
I tell you this?
Yeah, I think you did. I have a vague memory of it.
Okay, I'm going to tell it again because a lot of people haven't heard the story. It's a good story. So I'm home and I'm eating like a Dorito type of chip, a triangle chip, and it got caught in my throat. No. You know what it was? It was one of those giant tablets that you put in water, and immunity tablets.
That's right.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you put it in water and it fizzes and it disappears and you drink it down. But for some reason, I thought You put
You
it
just
in your
swallow it.
mouth. You swallow it, but it's massive. It's the
What are you
size of
thinking?
like a silver dollar. And I put it in my mouth and I just swallowed it. And I was like, oh, it's in my throat. And I was like, I need this thing to fizz.
So pour
And I
water in.
started drinking water. Hopefully it would start fizzing my throat. And I'm like, I'm going to freaking choke right here. And no one's home. So I'm YouTube searching Heimlich maneuver by yourself.
Oh, God.
And it comes up and immediately an ad comes on. I was like, what criminal would put this ad in front just to make a few cents? That's all you're going to get from YouTube. Just a few cents. I'm struggling here, and it will not let you click out of the ad. So I had to sit through this ad choking, and then I'm throwing myself violently against a chair to try to push this thing out of my throat. And I was thinking, this is going to be horrible. And then I'm going to die. It's going to fizzle after I'm dead. No one's going to know.
Don't know why. Yeah.
They're going to get an
That's
autopsy.
a perfect murder.
He's fine. We can't figure out why he died. He died with a lot of vitamin C in his system. We cannot figure it out.
But that's
This
one of
was
those perfect murders, where like the murder weapon dissolves.
Here, Raghunath, try this immunity pill. Just swallow it whole.
It goes down smooth.
It goes down real smooth. It just breaks apart in your throat quick.
Okay, Raghu, this has been a major squirrel.
All right. I'm just, maybe it's going to save somebody's life.
I just want to bring this. Mara knows, and Mara's my witness. Before the show, Raghunath was saying, okay, today we just had to be quick with the questions. We're just going to be fast, one after the other. I said, Raghunath, you always say that, you never do it. He says, no, I can do it. Well, here we go. The show's almost over. We've done 2 questions.
No, we're doing good. Okay. I've almost left my body numerous times. Car crashes, brain injuries, comas, or just choking on food.
Yeah.
And most of those times, Krishna was far away from my mind due to being unconscious or in a panic state of fighting for my life.
Right.
I know that feeling. It's difficult to think of Krishna at those times. It's one thing to be fixed up brahmachari in a Sankirtan van spinning down the freeway with other brahmacharis yelling, Nishangadev! But living a life out there, anything can happen, which the pain from leaving your body makes Krishna not on one's mind. I get this. He's also part of the Vaishnav Motorcycle Club.
Oh, okay.
Jai Madhava, yeah.
Got to be careful on motorcycles.
Yeah, you too, Kaustubha. You ride that bike around New York City without a helmet.
I ride like an old lady in a bike lane.
Whenever he warns me about my motorcycle, I bring it back that he doesn't wear a helmet riding a motorcycle.
I don't ride a motorcycle.
I'm riding a bicycle. Dangerous. Paramananda almost died that way.
Yeah, but that was before they had bike lanes. He was like a messenger speeding around trying to make a lot of money. I'm just like an old lady
It
in
can
a
happen
bike
to
lane.
you. You can't get hit by a
Protected
car.
bike lanes. Okay, anyway, that's another squirrel.
Fighting it.
Come on.
If your thoughts at the point of death carries you to your next body, and we've been bouncing from body to body, then how do we stay focused on Krishna while fighting for our life? I know as devotees, we are supposed to have our minds fixed on Krishna at all times. But how can we make sure to do just that if we leave our body suddenly in a tragic, sudden, and unpeaceful way?
Okay.
Great question, Jai Madhava. My
Great
mom's
question.
nuts.com.
Great question. So, this is for the question and the answer. They're both there in the 8th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. And of course, Jai Madhava here, he's referring, like alluding to a very famous verse. Raghunath, you know it?
Oh, give me a hint.
8:6. Yum yum.
Yum yum bapi smaram bhavam tyajanti anti kalevaram.
Tum tum
Tam tam
evaitikanteya
konteya.
sada.
Sadata baba babitaha.
There you go.
Boom.
I wonder if
8th chapter.
Mara, you could work on that one. That's a famous one.
Yeah, it's a famous one. It's especially good because it starts with yum yum.
It's easier.
Yum, yum.
It keeps it easier to remember. Yum yum.
All these ones.
Yeah.
Yato, you know that one? Yato.
Yato nischalati.
Yato. Yum yum.
Okay, so the translation is whatever state of mind, whatever state of being one remembers when one quits their body, that state they will attain without fail. Now that's an interesting concept, that your thoughts at the time of death bring you to your next life form. Yeah. And then, I really love the verse after that, Tasmat Sarveshu Kaleshu. You know that one?
I don't know that one.
Tasmat Sarveshu Kaleshu. Tasmat, therefore, right? Because of what we just said. Therefore, tasmat sarveshu kaleshu, at all times, mam anusmara, always remember me. Yudyacha, and at the same time fight.
Yep.
Right? So in other words, be active in this world, but always be thinking of me as you're active in this world, right? So Krishna says, therefore, Arjuna, you should always think of me in the form of Krishna. At the same time, carry out your prescribed duty of fighting. With your activities dedicated to me. So here's the answer in one sense. Dedicate your activities to Krishna. With your activities dedicated to me and your mind and intelligence fixed on me, you will attain me without doubt. So Jai Madhava, it's really about how we live our life that's going to allow us to attain Krishna at the end. And the devotee's really not so worried about whether it's going to happen slow, or maybe we would all like to pass away in that kind of stereotypical sadhu way. We're in Vrindavan surrounded by devotees and they're chanting.
A romantic death.
Yeah, I mean, it's a beautiful way to go, and a very fortunate way to go. But also we have the faith that Krishna cares for his devotee. And that idea it plays out in the 8th chapter, because the 8th chapter deals with death, right? Attaining the supreme, right? It has a lot to do with how death plays out. And in that chapter, as it comes towards the end of it, Krishna begins to say, there are different ways that yogis leave the body. They choose their time of death, right? Like real advanced yogis could choose the time of death, and they could actually follow a path, like a universal path to their liberation, And then Krishna begins to list those different times. I'll read just a little bit from it. The mystics, he says, those who know the Supreme Brahman attain the Supreme by passing away from the world during the influence of the fiery god, in the light, at an auspicious moment of the day, during the fortnight of the waxing moon, or during the 6 months when
of the waxing moon.
Yeah, well, this sounds like the good one, right? The 6 months when the sun travels to the north. Like I got a 50-50 chance right there.
I got to hold out for 6 more months. An inauspicious time to leave my body.
But what exactly that means, I'm not sure. But then he goes on, the mystic who passes away from this world during the smoke of the night, the night, the fortnight of the waning moon, or the 6 months when the sun passes to the south, reaches the moon planet, but again comes back.
So interesting.
So he's what he's saying.
It's interesting. Somebody knows all this stuff. There are all these details. There's answers for all this stuff.
There is, but
we may not know them, but somebody knows them.
But here's the question: what's the context? Why is Krishna sharing all this? It's like, is this the meaning of the Bhagavad Gita, that we're supposed to try to manipulate the time that we leave our body so that we can achieve some kind of higher destination? It might appear that way, but really, you see, the Bhagavad Gita in many ways is an answer to the older Vedic thought, which did emphasize these things. But when you get to the Gita, it's not talking about karma. It's not talking about like manipulating this world so that we get more enjoyment or pleasure out of it. When you get to the Gita, it starts to talk about bhakti. And what bhakti means is I just give my life to God and I depend on God for everything, including my life in this world and my destination in the next. So Krishna goes on and he says, this is how he wraps up the chapter. He says, according to Vedic opinion, right? According to Vedic opinion, right? Going back to that Vedic thought, there are 2 ways of passing from this world, one in light and one in darkness. When one passes in light, he does not come back, but when one passes in darkness, he returns. Now that's the Vedic way of thinking. But now he's going to bring Arjuna to the Bhakti way of thinking, to the Bhagavatam way of thinking, right? In the Gita way of thinking. He says, although the devotees know these 2 paths, O Arjuna, they are never bewildered. Therefore, always be fixed in devotion. Right? So you just focus on that. And then he says, a person who accepts the path of devotional service, in other words, once you make that one move, I give my life to God, all of the Vedic thought, all the technicalities, they become irrelevant. So he says, a person who accepts the path of devotional service is not bereft of the results derived from studying the Vedas, from performing sacrifices, from undergoing austerities, from giving in charity, or pursuing philosophical and fruitive activities, all things that you might do to attain a better destination, they're all covered just by giving your life to God. So Krishna concludes, simply by performing devotional service, they attain all of these. And at the end, they reach the supreme eternal abode. So that's the way that a devotee thinks. I may die this way, I may die that way. But it's always auspicious to give my life to Krishna. And if I give my life to Krishna, I depend on Krishna for everything. And I trust that even if I die, in a quick way, in a tragic way, choking on a vitamin pill or whatever it may be, even if in that moment it appears that my mind was stressed, in some way, Krishna still has my back. God still has my back. And even it might have appeared to an outsider like that was a horrible death for a spiritualist or something like that. From the perspective of the devotee and what they're experiencing at that moment or the moment after that, we don't know. But Krishna cares for the devotees, and that's our principle. That's what we base everything around. You like that, right?
That's a great answer. That's a great answer. No,
Yeah.
I've thought about that deeply myself. I want a romantic death, but Krishna enters the mind. He takes care of the devotees.
That's right. I remember, when we used to go on the Navadvip Mandal Prikramas.
Yeah.
And, I remember that in the book, what the Navadvip Mahatmya is the book that describes all of those different places.
Right.
And sometimes you hear descriptions in there like, if anyone dies in this place, or having given their life to Sri Chaitanya. There's that one place where Lord Shiva resides in Navadvip, that where they have those big bats flying around. Remember that? There's that tree and there's like a temple inside
the name of it,
under
put it on
the water.
board. Yeah.
And there's these massive bats that are like
Giant
flying around,
bats.
the flying foxes they call them.
Flying foxes.
Yeah, and
That's what I'm talking about, like giant.
So,
Like,
and I remember, I think that was the place that says if you die there, anyone who dies there, at the moment of your death, Lord Shiva, he chants in your ear like loud, Gauranga.
Really?
And really, that's our faith. It's like we give our life to God, and we let all the results. Hey, if I have to come back, I'll come back for God. That's my only prayer, is that I'll have service. We have to train ourselves, and when we train ourselves to think that way, all the anxiety begins to go. What if I die this way? What if I die that way? I'm just a servant for Krishna here or wherever, in this life, in the next life, in Vaikuntha, on earth, in heaven or hell. I'm a servant, and as long as I have that connection, I'm okay.
The little baby doesn't have to worry about, what am I going to eat for breakfast? Do I have to go shopping? Do I have to buy some, idlis at the shop? No. The little baby is just crying. And in that crying, the mother comes or the father comes and makes breakfast. So we're just crying out to Krishna. Krishna, I trust you. You got me. We're not these great yogis. We're going to sit there in deep meditation. I drill my mind on Krishna. And the times Krishna will enter your mind. Krishna is there for you. So in this lifetime now, we're just practicing. Every day is a practice in that most devastating time. And then because of that practice, Krishna is there for us. He'll be with us. I was just thinking about that last night. Ever lay in bed and think, what if I die right now? Ever think like that?
Not too often.
Oh, really? I think of that all the time. What if I die right now? I'm obsessed with that type of thought. Wow. Right. Well, it's 59, man.
Yeah, that's the show.
It's 59. That's the show. Which is why it's so quick.
Yeah.
But do we do takeaways on questions and answers day?
We generally don't do that.
Oh, we don't. Okay. All right. Well, good. Well, it was fun.
But I think the one was, what was it? The responsibility lies with the lawbreaker, not the lawmaker.
Yeah, that's my new tattoo from Kim Rossini.
We're lawbreakers from Scranton. What do you think? Not really.
Yes. Thanks, everybody, for joining us that I didn't say hello to, that sort of snuck in under the radar. Hey, Vish is here, and we're playing Vish's song. This is crazy.
You can't plan that, Raghunath.
You can't plan that. That is a Krishna miracle. I'm in Vish's house, and we're playing Vish's song. Oh, my God. We've got so much kirtan going on today. I don't even know how to handle it. I want to thank everybody who wrote in, asked questions. If you want to write in a question, just write to wisdomofthesages108@gmail.com. I want to thank the Liebermans, especially Nitai and Gopi, for dancing around and hanging out with me at the festival. If you see a grown man hanging out with two little children, that's me. They're not my kids, but they're my best friends. And all the people who joined us late, Krishna Chaitanya, Kelly Becker, and say Paramananda Prabhu, Nadia, Megan McDonald. Who else is here that I haven't seen?
People on
here?
Facebook.
Oh yeah, all the people on Facebook. We do this every day at strange times, but we do this every day. It's going to be 8:00 this week. Tomorrow we have a special guest, Kaylee. This guy's a great musician. Kaustubha loves him to death.
Love
His
him.
favorite artist. Love him. And so he's going to be interviewing. I'm doing a long road trip, so I'm going to be tuning in as a secret other in the
You're
background.
gonna be tuning in. Okay.
Yeah, I might
all
be tuning in.